Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the SIG podcast, Recruits Draftcast. That's right. Grant is back, and so am I. Shout out to Rocco, first and foremost, for filling in for me last week. He did a heck of a job. I was having some technical difficulties, but fingers crossed, hopefully that's a thing of the past now, and we move forward because today we have another guest coming on the show, that being head coach of Michigan State hockey team. We're very excited to speak to him in just a moment. And now we're going to be having a different formula moving forward, meaning we have 2 shows a week. So this show is solely dedicated to our guest, and why not get to him right now? So let's get started.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to the SIG Podcast. Recruits Draftcast.
And with the first overall selection in the 2023 NHL Draft, the Chicago Blackhawks are very proud to select from the Regina Pats, the Western Hockey League, Connor Bedard.
The sickest NHL draft and scouting podcast. It's gonna be sick.
All right, you know the drill by now. I am your host, producer Shayne, joined by the always knowledgeable Grant McCagg. How are we feeling today?
Excellent. Couldn't feel better. I'm stoked for this interview.
So am I. So let's bring him in. Head coach of Michigan State, Adam Nightingale. Adam, thanks for taking the time to chat with us. How you doing?
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Hey,
Right on. So you have been the head coach since 2022, correct?
Correct. Yep, correct.
Right on. So, I mean, last spring, right, was a big step for the team, advancing to the Big Ten semifinals for the first time in program history. So can you talk a bit about how you took in the team? What did you do to kind of shift things around and bring them to that point?
Yeah, no, it was a fun year for sure. You know, I took over in May, and the most important thing is, you got to have a really good staff. And, I think putting together a staff that could help our guys, not only identify, talent, but to help guys get better. And I think that's what we try to be about as our program, is helping guys improve. And so, when I just kind of did my homework, I wasn't in the college game, and reached out to people that I trusted. And, Jared DeMichael and Mike Towns' name, they kept coming up. And they're guys that had certainly been in the college game and had success and been part of building programs. So for them to join was great. We brought our strength coach from the national team, Will Morlock, and he's a guy that trains about 25 NHLers in the summer, and I saw what he did with that 04 group, and then it was just getting a group of guys. I think that was a blessing too, as we got the job, and the portal was closed, so that was your roster, and we were able to make a couple moves. But I also think it's important to coach the group you have, and we had a group of guys that were hungry to get better and hungry to be a good team, and so I thought we took a good step. We obviously had a lot of room to still improve, but that first year was, and even this year is about laying a foundation for long-term success, and a ton of credit to that group of guys.
Wow.
Well, I mean, it's certainly, it's been an impressive turnaround. I believe you're 7th ranked now in the nation, and first place in the Big Ten Conference at this point, leading NCAA in goals. So, I mean, I look back at your college statistics. You're teaching them all. You weren't safe to say you weren't goal scorer, I guess you could say.
Yeah, no, for sure.
You're teaching them all your tricks there from.
Yeah, no. What's the saying? Those who can't do it, coach. So I feel fortunate. Just my progression as a coach. I've a chance to work at every level. I started out at Shattuck St. Mary's. I was coaching the 4th midget team there, and that really showed me the power of maybe seeing something in people and believing them even when they don't believe in themselves. And we had a group of kids there off that team that ended up, I think we had 12 that played college hockey, a couple NHL draft picks. And I think that a lot of times players are capable of more than we give them credit for as coaches. Our job is to put them in positions, and they got to go out and execute. And we definitely, to score, you got to have guys that have that on their resume too. It's and we got some guys definitely have a background of scoring.
Now, did you have another question there, Shayne?
No, you go ahead.
Oh, okay. I'm probably going to be asking the majority of them there, so bear with me.
Yeah. I know you're itching. You got a bunch lined up there. You got this.
I mean, if I'm not mistaken, Justin Abelkader was the last MSU player to play in the World Junior Tournament. Is that right?
He was off
Before
their
the
current. Like Nico Mueller had played in it for Switzerland, before he got here.
Oh,
but
okay.
we're missing guys that were current players that have gone. Yeah, it was since 2007. So now, we had 5 guys invited to camp. 4 ended up making their country's teams, and that's credit to those guys. Obviously, you guys know how special of a tournament that is, and so we're excited about that. I think that's a good sign for our program.
Well, I mean, to go 16 years without with one guy and then 4 guys playing in the tournament. Are you maybe tapping international? Like I don't know in the past whether you had many players from outside of the U.S. or not, or Canada, but it seems like you've got, Sturback obviously and Manisto are 2 really good college players.
For sure. No, and I think that's, recruiting has become so global now. And I think with the internet and, the people have access, especially Europeans, like, we really believe in the college model, but, without the internet, it's hard to really tell that story, and so even for our players that are playing, we can watch them, it's more accessible. You can get video on guys. Working with, NHL contacts we have that are over there, maybe get wind of a kid that wants to play college. And so, yeah, I think that, there's so many good hockey players out there, and we're trying to find the best ones. And, fortunately, we've got some good Europeans that are helping us out.
And now you had a fifth guy that, I mean, he may have been the last cut or one of the last cuts. I sort of had him on the bubble, Patrick Geary.
Yeah.
As being maybe the 7th defenseman.
Yeah.
And, they went with Eric Holkamp, who was a good, a good, big, sturdy kid. And I think they needed maybe to augment the smaller guys on defense with a kid with a bit of, a bit of meat on him. I have to admit that when I saw his name as an invite, it took me by surprise. And I mean, probably because never actually scouted him before. And he's undrafted, but I presume that he's made a giant leap in his progress this season.
He has, yeah. When we got him from Waterloo, we were excited about him. He's a Buffalo kid. He's a hard defender, very smart, very good skater, and he really has. He's really he had a really good summer. He's gotten stronger and quicker and more powerful, and he's just a bit of a hockey player, And I think our credit to Gears, because you're right. I mean, I don't think he was on anyone's radar, and then all of a sudden, you get a call, and he's just based off of quality of play. It wasn't anyone pushing him. It wasn't anything like that. It was flat out. He earned an opportunity to go to the camp, and obviously he wanted to make the team. But I think that he should be proud of that, and also use it to motivate. And you don't have to take a back seat to anybody. Or Gears is a really good player, and thankful we got him.
Now, obviously, you're getting a lot of scouts coming to your games to see Levshunov, and with Geary being invited to the U8 or U20 camp, and all of the scouts that are coming to the games anyways, it often leads to other guys getting the exposure that maybe they didn't before. Are you hearing any buzz about teams? Have teams been talking about Geary and that perhaps he's being considered for the draft this year?
Yeah, no, for sure. There's teams that are, that are on him and watching, and they ask about him, and so you're right. I think anytime you have a player like Artie that attracts, scouts to come in, then you start looking around. These other guys are pretty good players too, and so Gears is definitely on the map. I've always thought that with Gears too. Like, I haven't coached the 04 group. I think had Gears played on the national team, there's no doubt in my mind he would have been a draft pick. Like the way he skates, how competitive he is, and But I think it's not about getting drafted; it's about playing in the league, and I think Gears has a legitimate chance to do that.
Now, also Manisto, I always noticed him on the Finnish teams, a hardworking kid that played bottom line roles, but I always kind of liked his two-way game. Now, would he be another kid that's getting more consideration now?
He is, yeah, he is for sure. And I'm with you. Like when again playing overseas with the 04s, we would play Finland, and he played in Tampere, so their pants are like that orange Little Caesars color pants. So and his blue shell would be over top of it. And I'd always, you would notice this. He impacted the game in his speed. He was so fast, and we got wind that he wanted to play, college hockey, and we were with a group of schools competing to try to get him. Unfortunately, we got him, and I think to play in the NHL, I really think you have to have some sort of outstanding quality, whether it be your brain or your physical strength, or in Tommy's case is his speed. I think he's very fast. He can get to loose pucks, and again, he's a young hockey player. So we're looking forward to watching him in the World Junior. I'm sure he'll have an impact on their team.
Sturback, he's played heavy minutes in internationally for Slovakia in the past, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's logging 30+ minutes for the Slovaks in this tournament.
Yeah, you're right. He's I think this is his third tournament. If you look at his age, that's pretty impressive. He's still got another year to do it, and I'm guessing pretty good chance he'll be their captain, and they'll lean on him there. And he's played great for us here. I think coming in as a true freshman in college hockey is really hard. He's played a lot of different minutes, and I think he really knows who he is as a player too. And he's a hard defender that can move the puck, and he's got a really heavy shot. And you combine all those together, you're right. I think he's gonna be a key role for Slovakia and play a ton of minutes.
We got to get to Levshunov. He's you're getting a lot of scouts showing up at your games this year. I have him 6th ranked at the moment. So obviously I like a pile of things about his game. Just maybe a little background on how you managed to get him into your program to begin with.
Yeah, I think, we watched him obviously in Green Bay, and, the thought was he was going to go play major junior, but with the ban on Russians and Belarusians, college became an option. And we got a call kind of out of the blue and said, hey, you're on a list of schools that Artie would like to consider. And so we presented our case, and, fortunately he chose us. And I give him a ton of credit because he's, it's not easy being in another country. Obviously, he had a year underneath his belt in North America, played in Green Bay, but he's done an unbelievable job in the classroom, in our community. The people love him, and he's a rink rat. He's a hard worker. He's at the rink a ton, and he's been a big piece of our season so far. And again, another young player. He's only going to get better.
Yeah, and from your Grant, from your perspective as the coach, what would you say sets him apart from the rest? Being a big mobile defenseman, puts up points, reliable defensively. He's good at everything, it seems, though. Yeah. From your perspective, I'm curious to hear from that.
So I agree with you. I think he is. He's and obviously all young players, right? There's areas to improve, but Artie, he's very smart. His ability to make the next play and help our team play fast. His offense from the blue line, and his ability to break the puck out. What I think is pretty cool is that when you have a defenseman with that much offensive ability, like his passion for defending, and I think he ends a lot of plays. His ability to close, he has a great stick, and just his physical strength, at his age guys kind of bounce off him, so he's definitely, there's a reason he's ranked as high as he is. I think he should be ranked that high. I haven't been around some of these high end guys that, I've said to people, I have a hard time believing there's many better players than him in the draft.
I'm going to put on my scouting cap there. And when you're considering drafting somebody top 5, you look at his whole game, and you have to be a heck of a prospect to go that high. Obviously, with me having him 6th ranked, I think the world of him. But last year in Green Bay, when I studied the tape, there was work to do. He's a bit of a rover at times, it's fair to say. He gets maybe caught up ice a little bit. We just got a couple of clips here, and it's not to dwell on the negative or anything, but I just he joined. This was a couple of weeks ago where he probably should have sat back. And again here, this is a turnover. That's going to happen for a freshman in college on occasion, and that's not a big deal. But this one here kind of was another one that sort of, I was looking at his last 4 games, and maybe habits from last year are creeping in a little bit. I don't know if it's because of he's doing so well offensively and stuff, but last year I was concerned with him maybe being roving a little too much. And that for me is maybe the only part of his game that I think concerns me. But I just want you to maybe touch on that.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, I think that's at the end of the day, we're trying to help Artie to be a real defenseman. And I think some of the things that like you talk about, whether it's roaming or, you never want to clip a player's wings of this caliber. Our job's to teach them. And there's going to be moments, where because he's doing some of the things that weren't on the tape that he's created for us, we're never going to claim that we taught him how to do that. He's got some natural God-given ability. And but also we know the league that he wants to play in, and you got to be responsible. And what I like about Artie is he always, I think if you look at his progression from when we first played our first games against Lake Superior, he was all over the place. He impacted it for sure, but maybe not repeatable. To now, he's made a lot of strides, and that shows that he wants to learn. He'll come in and watch NHL video. We sit and watch Cale Makar, and what I like doing with him is, it's in our coaches we just pick a game. It's not like we have this queued up, because you can do that as a coach, right, and build your case. I'm like, hey, I'm just going to randomly pick a game here, and I'm going to play it, and this is what it looks like for a real defenseman to play. And the word that keeps coming back with Makar when talking to Artie is he plays the game efficient. And I think as a young defenseman, that's really hard. You're excited about, you have these talents, and you want to help your team, and you want to make an impact, but finding those moments in the game when it's the right time. And we definitely don't want to take the stick out of his hands. And so there's going to be moments where, hey, Artie, but we got to teach you here, and he always is receptive to it. And it's been pretty cool to see his progression throughout the year.
Well, I mean, last year he was -15. He was worst on Green Bay, and this year he's second in the whole NCAA in plus minus.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's been some progression, obviously.
For sure. And I think we can debate plus minus, and that's a pretty high number for his age, right? So I do think there's some merit to it. But when we do scoring chances, and you assign it was you're responsible for it or against, and I mean it's pretty much every game. Artie's at the top of the list in the positive category for our team.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily put a lot of stock in plus minus unless it's that.
Yeah, for sure.
When you're second in the nation in plus minus, you're doing something right.
Big time. I totally agree.
And to go from the worst on your team last year to, just curious, do you? I mean, obviously you studied video of him playing in Green Bay. Now, when they arrive at training camp and practice and that, do you go over stuff that you saw from the previous what that you saw on video from him before he's in your program, or do you just sort of kind of teach him as he goes along, about the roving and maybe stuff like that?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think for all the guys we recruit, right, you have a feel for where their game's at when they come in, and that's our job, right? So, when you get a kid committed, it's not just, okay, he's in the hopper. And then, so, you're starting to invest in them. So having a feel for, what they bring to the table and areas to improve. But I also think, when you get here is, our job as coaches, like this is our expectation. This is how we're going to play. Regardless of how you played on your old team or in the past, this is how our team's going to play. And you need to hop on board with it. And, and I think that's the approach we've taken. So definitely know the areas he needs to keep growing, but also, really set a standard on how we want to do things.
Well, 23 minutes a game as a freshman now. You're obviously impressed. You're obviously impressed with him.
Yeah.
What would you say are his main strengths?
Well, I mean, I think just physically, he's very, very strong on his skates. I mean, you watch how many times guys, blow off him, and he can just kind of skate. He's an effortless skater. If you clocked him, he's the fastest guy on our team. And I think there's times where you watch him, and he's going faster than it looks. And those guys that make the game look easy like that are pretty rare. I think he's competitive. He wants to be great, and he's got a drive to him. And I think sometimes that gets overlooked with some of these real high-end guys, is like he's got a unique drive to not only be great, but help the team be great. And yeah, I mean, he's got a lot of tools, and that's why I think, just feel lucky, having coached a Logan Cooley or a Cutter Gauthier or some of these guys are real high picks. Like, Artie's in that category for sure.
Hello.
Do you I mean, you've coached, like you say, I was going to ask you that question too down the road, but if you were to be asked today, who would be the most skilled player that you ever coached to this point? Would you be able to answer that question?
Yeah, no, I mean, there's been a lot. Yeah, I've been fortunate to be around some, especially, you work in the NHL and, you get to be around some of the best players, so, but here, I mean,
Right.
Artie's right in that category of guys. I mean, I really do believe that he's unique in his skill set. And again, I love that he's a team guy too.
Yeah. You played against the U18s this year?
We do right after the new year.
You do, eh? Okay.
Yeah.
I thought maybe you had faced them. October 1st, you didn't play against the U18
No,
team?
the NCAA calendar was a little different this year, so it was actually started the next weekend. So our exhibition against them is, I think it's January 5th.
Oh, okay.
So yeah,
Because I was going to ask you about Yzerman there. Now you faced Minnesota recently. We have a lot of recruits covers the Montreal Canadiens in addition to the draft. So I'm going to ask you about a couple of guys that have been drafted by the Canadiens, and
gotcha.
Pitlick scored it. Rhett Pitlick scored a couple of goals against you guys in that doubleheader, that back-to-back, and he looked pretty good. Well, just you have any thoughts on Pitlick? I don't know. I realize you're not focusing on him specifically, but what do you think?
No, he's a dangerous player. Obviously, he's a crafty player, and I think his instincts offensively are really good. Like he can. His ability to kind of create time and space, and I think his ability to finish too. Obviously showed that against us, but no, I think he's a really good prospect.
Yeah, and Fowler in nets. You played against Boston College. 2 games.
Yep. Yeah, they took it to us pretty good out there. I thought the first game, we were down 2-0, and then we made it 3-2. And it was in the second period. I thought we had some really good looks to extend our lead, and I thought Fowler kept them in it, and then played good the rest of the way, and then they beat us the next night. And he was real solid the whole game there. So, yeah, I mean, he's obviously a really talented. We played against him when I was with the national team, and he was in Youngstown. And
right
now you look at him and Trey going to World Juniors together. I mean, goaltending will be a strength for Team USA for sure.
Yeah. I know it's, his athleticism has always sort of been the knock, but the kid, I mean, he took Youngstown to a Clark Cup championship last year, and he just seems to always win. He's a pretty competitive kid, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And positionally sound, I think he doesn't seem like there's a ton of that. You watch like high-end goalies, there's a calming presence in the net there, and I feel like he's got that.
You coached Lane Hudson for 2 years?
Yeah.
Were you surprised that he wasn't picked in the top 60?
Yeah, I mean, I think
despite his size.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look back, you talk to all the teams right before the draft, especially having a team like that with so many kids that were going to go high, and that was always the one. I was a very common question is like, which player do you think is going to go later than they should? And I always say Lane, because I really think one, he's. I've never seen Lane take a rep off in practice. And I mean, 2 years of that. I mean, in a really competitive environment where you got some really committed kids, like he really set the bar for us practice wise, and obviously highly skillful. Again, another defender that doesn't get credit for how well he defends. And I think sometimes too is his height. You can get caught up in his height, but his wingspan. I mean, I think it's like 6'2" or 6'3". So for me. That's how big he plays the game. I mean, it doesn't matter how tall you are, how long your stick is, and how long your reach is how long you play the game. And you watch him close, like his knuckles are down past his knees, like he's got a long reach. Yeah, so that was definitely a good pick.
Wow.
I like when I talk to him. Sorry, just quickly. He talks about how I like how he says, "Well, everybody's the same." I treat it like everybody's the same size out there.
Yeah, for sure.
It's got that attitude,
No doubt, it's great. It's great.
Yeah. Go ahead, Shayne.
Well, before we let you go, I know, Grant, you probably have more questions burning at the tip of your tongue, but I have one. I'm curious to know, you mentioned you have players from outside of North America on your team. So how do you navigate the language barrier, if there is one? Like, how do you coach players that might not understand English as good as others, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think most of them, Artie would be the one that, but he had a year under his belt there, and so his English is really good, and I think that's for a kid that wants to play in the NHL, and you're, getting acclimated to the English language. There's no better spot than university setting, so our guys are pretty good with it. They understand for sure. And then I think having some, that's helped with some of the, having Nico Mueller, that's, he speaks like 4 different languages. So his ability to connect with some of the younger European players has helped.
That's awesome.
I'm at Sturbach and Manistow speak decent English, I would.
Yeah, very good. Very good.
Yeah.
Very good students. Actually, I think Sturbach speaks 3 different languages. Very smart kid. He's lived away from home since he's 15. So, I mean, these kids they've adapted really well.
What's his nickname, first of all? Levshunov, Artie, or
just Artie? Yeah, Artie.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's Artie taking? Belarusian studies, or?
No, he's got his normal. Yeah, he's got his normal, freshman class load with math class, psychology class, and different things. And fortunately, the way we're supported here, we're able to provide all of our guys tutors if they need them. We were able to find a Russian tutor that can help them, and he's done really well. I think he ended up with a 3.6 first semester. So his mom's an engineer. He's a smart kid, and he's been doing well in the classroom.
Wow, good kid.
Great kid. Just appreciative. I think coming from where he's come from, and you look at what we're able to provide our guys. I mean, he appreciates everything. He's a simple kid. That's when he first got here. He's like, Coach, I don't need much, just simple, and don't need much. Stick and skates, but he's that's pretty cool when you have someone that understands, the opportunity we have here.
Yeah.
Now, as far as the like anyone that wants to see offensive highlights of Levshunov, just go on Twitter. I didn't feel that I had to put them up because there's YouTube. I mean, it's full of them. I mean, there's no disputing how good. What part of his offensive game would you say is the strongest? His shot, his playmaking, is what part of his offensive game stands out for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's his vision and his poise. I think especially college hockey is so fast. We're playing 34. Every game's like a playoff game. And guys are in your grill, and you don't have a ton of time and space. And so his, when you see a guy with like big time poise in college, it really stands out. And to be doing that at 17, just turned 18, that's a gift for sure. So, and then I think it took a little while for our guys you got to be ready when you're on the ice, because he's gonna find you, and it's gonna be right on the tape, and it might be a rocket, to get it through a seam or whatever. But I just think those 2 things, like his poise and his vision.
Where are you from originally, Adam?
I'm from Sheboygan, Michigan. So it's
Michigan. Okay.
Yeah.
That hockey. Yeah. I noticed that Michigan is, they say hockey as opposed to hockey, like we do up here in the True North, but
yeah.
Now you coached Ryan St. Louis as well, did you not? Marty's son?
I didn't. He was on.
Okay.
He was maybe one game. He might have came and played one game. So he was on. He was the 03 birth year, and I had the 04. So that team. Yeah.
He was on that roster, but I guess I didn't check how many games. I was just going to say if you got to know Marty at all, or.
Yeah, I always enjoyed talking to Marty. I saw him out in Buffalo, and then when he would be in town watching his son play, and he's always been, obviously, his resume speaks for itself, but really good guy. Enjoyed talking hockey with him.
Yeah. Were you surprised when he got the head coaching job with the?
No, I mean, I think he's a guy that walks into the room and instantly has respect,
Yeah.
And then I think the fact that he had been coaching, I know it was at the youth level, but I think he understands kind of what's going on in the game and what things are important. And having a couple sons that are high level players, like understanding how to communicate with young players, I think those are all important things. And so I wasn't surprised at all.
Yeah. And I mean, being, getting an NHL coaching job after coaching Pee Wee or whatever, I mean, gives hope for all you guys, right?
That's right. Yeah. You never know.
Do you have, I assume that you wouldn't, if an NHL team came calling down the road, that you wouldn't mind being a head coach at the NHL level someday.
Yeah, I mean, I feel I've never had a plan coach. I just love coaching. I left coaching in the NHL to go coach the national team. So it's never been about the level for me, and, I went to school here. My wife, I met my wife here. We got 3 kids, and we love being a part of Michigan State. And I'm obviously never say never, but again, my focus has always been wherever you're at, coach, try to do the best you can.
Now, I mean, that gold medal game against Sweden when you were with the U18s, that was a classic. That was a great game. And I wasn't sure about Logan Cooley being a top 3 guy going into that tournament. I had a few, not the biggest kid in the world, and, maybe had to work on some things, but I thought he was great in that tournament. And I was a huge Noah Ostlund fan, and I'm just wondering what you thought of him in that gold medal game against you guys.
Yeah, no, that was a really good game. I think those are games where obviously it was a bummer to lose, and in a single elimination. I've always told teams I've coached, not going to judge you on the scoreboard. I think our sport is one where you can play really well and maybe you don't get the result. And I thought that was the case in that game. Not to discredit Sweden, but I don't know what the shots ended up, 50 something to 18. I mean, we played about as good as you can, that group of forwards for sure for Sweden were dangerous, and it didn't take any opportunities. And Ostlund and Ogren, and those guys were 2 that really stood out to me. And their goalie definitely played really well. And you're right. I mean, Logan, pretty cool. Logan, I know they got the Youth Olympics getting ready to go on. Logan was a kid that didn't make the Youth Olympic team. And all of a sudden now, we get there with the 17 team, and people were kind of excited about, but he was still growing and growing into his body. And I remember first practice being like, wow, this guy's different. He's the way he thinks the game. And, once he fills out, gets a little more pop in his stride. And I mean, he was a fun player to coach, and it's fun watching him now. And, and obviously, in the NHL, and I know it's an adjustment, any young player going in, but he's going to play for a long time.
Mm-hmm. I noticed in the Hobey Baker when they had the finalists, to pick, and they showed his family and all that, and just seemed like a really down to earth family, and Logan as well, very likable.
Big time, yeah, no, unbelievable family. It's funny, I never heard a word from his parents, and it didn't always go smooth, right? Logan was, and there's ups and downs when you're a young player, and especially the 17 year, and there was nothing more than Brad Braceville, who was one of the player personnel guys that tells the story, and he ran into Logan's mom and asked Logan's mom, how's things going? And she's like, oh, good. And talked about school and whatever. And he's like, well, what about hockey? And she's like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, how's hockey going for him? And she's like, I don't talk to him about hockey. And reason, Logan's low maintenance, and he just comes to the rink, enjoys playing hockey. And but you're right, that's a great read on you. It comes from a great family. Just
in closing on one, back to Hudson for a minute. Do you? I mean, obviously the knock has been his size, and I think he might be 5'9.5" or almost 5'10". I mean, you always hear different. You can never go by the measurements on the hockey databases, but do you think that he will be able to play a top 4 even strength role in the NHL? Because I certainly think he can run a Montreal's power play down the road for sure.
Yeah.
Did you think that that he brings enough and that he'll improve enough to play a steady top 4 role at even strength?
I do. Yeah, no doubt in my mind. I mean, I think that he's one of those guys you never doubt him. And I think he's fought that his whole life and proved people wrong. And again, I think it's that drive that he has, the competitiveness that he has, and obviously he's got to be smart with it, right? It's you're never going to go in with a guy that's 6'5" and blow him up. But I mentioned before his reach, his stick defensively. I remember Dan Bilesma coming to a practice of ours and watching, and this was in the 17 year, and Dan's worked with some of the best in the world, won a Stanley Cup and Olympic coach, and right after practice he came to me and he's like, who's that defenseman? He's like, and I told him his lane. He's like, He's like, I've never seen a kid with that good a stick defensively. How many pucks he knocks down and strips guys, and those are all tools that he's going to need to be able to play those type of minutes. But he has them, and he has them at a unique level, and so yeah.
Yeah. I think he may have froze on us there right at the end.
Gotcha.
Oh,
okay, we're back.
Gotcha.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, and I think their plan is to they picked Reinbacher top 5 last year, and complement him with a big kid that's going to be physical and good defensively, and can shelter him a little bit, right, when there's some size along the walls and stuff. And I think that's their plan, is to down the road to be in their top 4 for sure. So I also asked Nick Four as well, about that, and he basically had the same. First thing he mentioned about him is how competitive he is.
Yeah.
So that seems to be like something that people maybe and scouts underestimated a bit in his draft year.
Yeah. And I think for us, we, Forsey and I got a chance to work with him for 2 years, and when you see that every single day, it's not just not just competitive in the big games or competitive in one period when the game's on. It's like every rep, and you do that every single day. That becomes a habit, and his habits are great with it. So, yeah, no, I think again, I'd take Lane on my team any day of the week.
Yeah. Well, it's been great having you on, Adam, and I'm sure during the little break that we have here, you're going to be watching some World Junior hockey. Yeah,
looking forward to it. It'll be nice to have, obviously the 4 guys and pulling from, obviously, with U.S. teams playing. I told those guys that takes priority. So when they're playing, I think they're in the same pool as Max and Slovakia there. So, but yeah, looking forward to watching those guys.
Good stuff.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you, Adam. You've given us plenty of your time, but we know you have more important things to do, like winning a championship. So we'll let you get back to that.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys.
Good luck with. I hope you do well in the Big Ten this year and go all the way.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. Thanks.
Amazing.
See you guys.
All right. That was Adam Nightingale, head coach of Michigan State University. Great interview. Learned a lot about a top prospect, right? Arty. Now we'll be able to call him Levshunov, who is likely going to be a top 10 pick. Yeah.
He can play hockey, that kid.
But no, I mean, what he was saying about him, it's very exciting stuff. To have him, to compare him to the likes of the talent of Logan Cooley, Carter Gauthier that he's coached before. That's no small feat. So that's a very, very exciting player that we'll be talking about a lot more on this channel. Speaking of, now in the beginning of the show, I mentioned that we're going to change the formula a bit. So this show was dedicated only to Adam, right? We wanted really to only have this be the main focus of the show, but we're going to be doing another one. Now, we're not getting rid of the prospects of the week and all that. That's going to be in the other one, okay? So stay tuned this week. We're going to have 2 shows because we're just that nice, and it's the holidays. So, we're feeling generous, right? We want to treat you guys to some more hockey, and it's the World Juniors, so there's plenty to talk about. So that about wraps it up for us. As always, if you'd be so kind to click subscribe and like and leave us a comment, let us know if there's any subject you'd like us to talk about, and any positive comment you may have or negative, we'll take them anyways. Grant, any parting words from your end?
Yeah, well, I just renewed my Instat subscription. Instat got bought out by Huddle in the past 6 months, and they increased my subscription rate by quadruple.
What?
Now, I mean, I really had to contemplate whether I could, if it was feasible for a small company like mine. I mean, they're trying to, they were trying to charge me like NHL team rates, and I mean, I just, I'm not a billionaire. So I'm just, I'm optimistic that with this podcast, with all the videos we do, the prospects of the week, I've got 3 scouts working for me on the website now, and or 2 and myself, putting up tons of video. We're charging $1.99 a month for draft coverage. Now, if you're watching this podcast and it would certainly be appreciated. I think it's probably $1.49 US or something like that a month for all of the videos that we put up and the great scouting reports from my staff. And, we'll be putting up NHL scouts comments. I talk to them all year. And in the second half, I kind of wait till January till they've seen all the guys and they have a good opinion on players. But I put up NHL scouts comments galore down the stretch here as we get closer to the draft. And I'd love to pick up a few new subscribers to help, pay for this quadruple increase in the cost of having Instats. So just asking people that maybe consider, try it for a month for $2. And if it doesn't satisfy you, you can cut off your subscription, but it's a monthly $2 a month. And it'd be great if we could get a surge in support here going up for the rest of the year.
That's right. I mean, the Recruits website is really the mother, right? This is only the extension, this channel here. So that's where you can get all your draft and Habs coverage, anything you can imagine, really, and a lot of good interviews, like you mentioned. It's going to be a lot of scouts on there soon, so stay tuned for that. So that's about it for today. We thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you very soon.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast, Recruits Draftcast on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.